A bubble to me implies that you have excess supply and not enough demand. It's actually the opposite. Not only is it the opposite, it's like way the opposite.
Yeah.
5 million homes short in under a decade. We're on pace to build like a third of that, if I understand correctly. And that number is probably getting worse now that nobody's building.
For sure. Okay. Let's get into it. Bank of Canada pauses rates.
Ooh-wee. Did I call it?
Yeah, you did.
Kind of.
You messaged me this morning, and you asked me what I thought, and I said I didn't know. To be honest
huge cop out by you.
Yeah. To be honest with you, what I do think would have been the right move is to... Now, here's the thing. I think they should have raised them.
Interesting.
And the reason why is because I don't agree with what's going on right now. I'm not what people think I am in terms of, real estate bull. You know me ever since I've been in real estate. You know that I've always been very cautiously optimistic.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And from my perspective, I've always felt you've brought in properties to me, or other people have brought in properties to me, and I've always looked at them with a different type of lens, even when the market was super hot. And I think it's because I'm a little jaded from when I started my real estate career back in the Great Recession period. And I know what could happen with respect to a major recessionary period, a financial crisis. I know what this type of stuff means.
So you're predicting an economic meltdown?
No, I'm not predicting anything. This is the problem, right?
Yeah, how does this tie in with the announcement today?
Because nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows what's going to happen.
Nobody ever knows.
Exactly. Nobody ever can predict anything. As soon as you think you can, this happens, right? They pause the rates.
Yeah.
And what do you think is going to happen in real estate right now?
It's probably going to get a little boost here. A
little?
Boost. Like, we have seasonality impacting things as well, and still a lot of people aren't selling and whatnot. But it should give people some confidence to get back in the market for sure. If they would have raised today, it would have been more negative sentiment
for sure. How important is sentiment
it's
in
massive.
the market? It is massive.
The average person is influenced beyond what they even know by what they see in the media and what their friends and family are saying, which are generally just parroting the media.
Yeah. The general population operates on sentiment.
Yes.
Especially with respect to the real estate market.
That's why nobody wants to buy a stock until it's hot in the market or hot in the media. Nobody wants to buy real estate until everybody else wants to buy real estate.
Yeah.
People want to start selling their stuff when everybody else wants to start selling. People are just following.
Yeah,
they're following.
To be honest with you, one of the reasons selfishly why I wanted them to raise rates is because I wanted to get back into the market.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It would have really hammered sentiment.
That's literally one of the reasons why I would have rather them raise rates.
Yeah, I think the major damage is, you okay?
Yeah, there's something happening just on the computer there. That's fine. Go ahead.
The major damage with the rate hikes has already been done. They raised 11 times or whatever, 12 times in a row, some 3/4 point, half point rate hikes. Now we're seeing little trickling.
Yeah, the rate shock's over.
The rate shock is over, but now it's just everything they do is now sentiment.
Yeah.
It's going to be one way or another. A pause is positive, but it's only slightly positive.
Yeah.
I just saw in Poland today, they actually surprisingly cut rates 3/4 of a point.
Oh.
And their inflation's running at 10%, but they cut rates.
See?
And like you said, we don't know how this is going to play out.
No.
Which is why I believe that your mentality of being cautiously optimistic, whether the market's super hot or super cold or crashing around you, whatever the case is, the optimal position to be in is cautiously optimistic.
All the time.
The reason you're not pessimistic is because you can't operate with a pessimistic mindset.
No.
And be successful.
No, you're at that point you'll be taken out of the market. You'll if you're a pessimist with respect to anything, with respect to any kind of investing or any
building
kind
a
of business,
going for a job, like whatever.
It doesn't matter. You'll be able to find any reason not to take action, and that's why it's impossible to be a pessimist if you actually want to get ahead in life. If you want to become successful, I'm sure you could become successful being a pessimist, but I'm not interested in just becoming successful. I want to be ultra successful. And in order to be ultra successful, you cannot be a pessimist.
I agree.
It's impossible.
I agree.
It's literally impossible.
And it's interesting because most of the sentiment, a lot of the stuff we follow on Twitter is just like, it's not a balanced perspective on anything. It's not cautiously optimistic. It's actually just pure pessimism, the world is ending continuously nonstop.
Yeah. I'll give you a little bit of context. I was in a space yesterday. Somebody invited me to a space, and, I joined it because I was, invited, and, if somebody, takes a time out to invite me or whatever, and, hey, you're going to join the space or whatever, I'll no matter what side of the fence they're on, I don't really care. I actually enjoy seeing the other side of the fence, even politically. Love and things like that. Like, I'm not this type of person where I don't want to hear the other side. I want to hear all aspects of everything, right? So that I can form my own opinion and do it, from a unbiased point of view. So I'm in the Twitter space, and there was people talking around in circles about basically
a negative
I didn't
loop.
hear yes, but also with the narrative of this was going to happen, this was going to happen, I don't see how this is going to happen, I think this is going to happen, but nobody was like, okay, well, this is what you do in the event this happens. This is what you do in the event this happens. Not one person. And I wanted to go in there and add my 2 cents, but my phone fucking died. But right before that, I also wanted to comment on somebody that took the position of they feel that if they rate hike again, or if rates stay high, nobody's going to be interested in buying land. Nobody's going to be interested in developing. Nobody's going to be interested in investing because nobody wants the headaches. And I wanted to sit there and say, literally, that's the complete. Oh, and another point that this person made was, the landlord tenant board is so strong that no investor wants to invest anymore, or soon they won't be wanting to invest anymore. And I'm sitting there, I'm driving home, and I'm sitting there literally thinking to myself, this is the shit that I actually look for. Literally. And not only that, they were talking about how everybody won't be able to afford their homes, so they're going to give the keys back, they're going to hand their keys back, but there's not going to be any investors waiting to take those keys. And I'm thinking in my head, you have it so wrong. There's so much capital that's been pooled and hoarded over the last 3 years. The trillions of dollars that the government printed over the last 3 years landed in the hands of the 1%. The people that own the businesses that are literally, that they have that money sitting in their bank account waiting to deploy it. There's a record amount of capital in the world right now waiting to be deployed. And as soon as this sentiment changes, because the ultra successful people, that 1% that I'm referring to, they're still influenced on sentiment. They're no different. Everybody's just, they're people too. They're still able to be influenced. However, they just have a different tolerance for risk. So they're going to get into the market sooner than you will, because their risk tolerance is not the same as a home buyer. So I truly do believe all that you're going to see, and here I might be wrong. I'm not oblivious to the fact that, take this with a grain of salt. I'm probably wrong, but this is my prediction.
Let's hear it.
Okay, I'm going to predict it. There's only going to be really 2 things that are going to happen. Number one, the rent versus home ownership percentage will increase significantly. Okay. And the amount of rentals and the amount of landlords with ownership, or the amount of the 1% that will end up owning the real estate, will dramatically also increase. And then probably third, even I saw a couple charts predicting the amount of millionaires that will be created in the next few years, or maybe even 5 or a decade, is going to dramatically increase. And I have reason to believe, now I haven't seen any kind of data suggesting this, but I also happen to believe that the percentage of those millionaires, quote unquote, will be because of real estate. And those are my 3 predictions. I don't necessarily think we're gonna.
No, it's inevitable.
I
It's
don't
just
think,
a matter of when.
Yeah,
the thing we don't know is when.
Exactly, and I don't necessarily. I think the writing's on the wall that we won't necessarily see this type of big cataclysmic crash that everybody's hoping for. And don't get me wrong, like I myself am also hoping for. I'm significantly under leveraged, and the reason why I'm significantly under leveraged is because I can't get any more leverage because my rents aren't keeping up with market, because you can't simply increase rents to market while you still have that same tenant in Ontario. You cannot do that. And I own the majority of my properties in Ontario. Now, it's a lot different in the States where we own, I own property in Michigan, Miami, where literally the same tenant, after that lease expires, you renew that lease at market, right? You can do that. There's no restrictions on whether or not you can increase rents to market. We don't have that here. The government tells us what we can increase rents by, right? So unless that tenant moves, you're only increasing rents by what, 2%, 2.5% this past year?
Yep. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. So in order to go get extra leverage on that property, you can't. So in a lot of circumstances, I'm literally like 30 to 70% LTV. It's insane. I have so much equity in this property that even if it takes a fucking haircut at 50%, I'm still good. So I think a lot of people don't really realize that. I think the crash, in the event it does crash, that it will be because of homeowners simply not being able to afford homes. And then the big dogs will just come in, swoop the home up for a discount, and then you have renters now.
What people think, or what they're calling for a crash, is actually only really happening at the margins.
Yeah.
So you have the mass majority of people that are just fine, right? 30% of Canadians have their home paid off. Probably another 40, 50% bought previously to the high, so they're fine. They're in a positive equity position. And there's, let's say, 10% of people on the margins that are struggling and at the risk of losing their home. That's like a relatively small percent. And like you said, there's so much capital sitting on the sidelines waiting for opportunistic
big time
chances to get into the market.
Record amount of capital sitting on the sidelines.
Of course, because like you said, it gets concentrated in the hands of the wealthy.
Yeah.
The middle class and poor, their savings are starting to run out because they don't invest properly.
For sure.
They spend it, and it's been spent at businesses. It goes up
the
food chain.
And what I think a lot of people don't realize is that when homeowners are faced with a hard decision on, hey, am I going to lose my house, or am I going to keep on buying coffee every day? Do I really need this car payment? The home is the last thing to go. Maybe I don't eat pizza every week. Maybe I don't order pizza. Maybe I don't eat out every week, or those things will start to change first. The expenses will be reduced,
of course,
before someone will actually just hand over their keys.
Especially in Canada, we do not have a history of massive crashes.
No.
And what other people are not predicting, we always harp on this, I'll continue to, is we can't predict what the Fed's going to do.
Yeah.
The Bank of Canada and the Liberal government that's currently in power.
No.
But what I do think and believe, I don't know, but I believe, is that they don't want the housing market to crash en masse.
Fuck no, they don't.
Every action that they've dictated, I don't know if you saw the post I did today with Christy of Friedland.
No.
A reporter asked her straight up, a lot of people think that housing prices should come down. If you could just get up here and tell people, like, yeah, we're going to work towards getting housing prices down, and it would give people an opportunity to get more affordable housing. She beats around the bush and says, essentially, we need to build more houses. But she will not corroborate the idea of, like, lower housing prices in Canada. Also, Tiff Macklem has come out and said, specifically, the rate hikes are not designed to target real estate. They're targeted at slowing the economy.
Yeah. Justin Trudeau came out saying that the housing market is not the responsibility of the federal government.
They want
the problem
a stable housing market. They need a stable housing market.
Yes, the problem is people in a perfect free market world,
it would clear itself out.
It would, yes. You would have what a lot of the housing bears are calling for. But the problem is we are not in that kind of environment.
And here's another
reason. We're in a
why.
manipulated environment, and that's why it's impossible to predict. That's why the goalposts keep on moving. That's why you can't predict anything. It doesn't. What happens doesn't make sense. It's not logical.
Yes, that's a great point. It's manipulated and restricted.
Exactly.
So what I say by restricted is you can't just go build a bunch of houses in Canada en masse. Like, you need so many approvals. Like, my point is that we were never in an oversupplied environment, whereas the crashes in the U.S. were predicated on massive oversupply. The market was hot. Builders have free reign. There's no zoning restrictions or limited. They get approvals 10x faster than us. They built way too much too quickly, and the system was broken. We are not in an oversupplied environment. So I don't know how you can call housing a bubble. A bubble to me implies that you have excess supply and not enough demand. It's actually the opposite. Not only is it the opposite, it's like way the opposite.
Yeah.
5 million homes short in under a decade. We're on pace to build like a third of that, if I understand correctly. And that number is probably getting worse now that nobody's building.
For sure.
So please, how do you, like, what's the definition of bubble? You know, for people that call it a bubble, what's the definition?
Yeah. Let's have people comment.
Seriously, yeah. I don't know. It's just everything's a bubble.
I would agree that housing in Canada is too expensive. It really is. From an affordability index.
But here's the thing. The affordability index is taking the average. We agree. The average person is getting priced out.
I agree.
But here's what's also happening. When you have a limited supply, all that supply that's limited becomes more valuable. So you get the margins get squeezed out again, right? So like you said, the ownership percentage goes down. The middle class gets squeezed out, and then it becomes only upper middle class, which are a lot of people are actually getting wealthy right now because they've been in home ownership for decades.
For sure. And you're going to see generational, families living in the same house. That's same thing. My mom came here from Portugal. There was 13 people living in a 2-bed house.
I'm seeing it.
It's the same shit. You're a realtor. You see the same shit. Multiple people living in one house.
Canadians
because that's how they afford
yet, but the other the immigrants are doing it. They come here and that's just normal to them. And it's
exactly
smart.
They live with 3 generations in their home.
100%. And it's smart.
My mom's dad's family in Toronto was doing it when they first got here too. They were doing all that stuff.
Yeah, but the the millennials and whatnot, Gen X, whatever it is now,
they're unwilling to do it.
They're not doing it because they're not used to it. They're just crying and complaining.
Yeah.
But what they should be doing is saying, how do I get into the market? How do I get in? How do I get ownership before I'm priced out forever like all other European cities where everybody becomes a permanent renter? You'll own nothing and be happy.
Yeah. I don't understand how else to...
The game is rigged. People are acting and making decisions based on the idea that it's not. Basing it on the idea that things are logical, basing it on the idea that the rules are fixed, basing the idea that if X and Y happen, then Z must happen, X plus Y equals Z. It does not work that way.
No.
It's X plus Y, and then the government will come in and throw a change up, and then it becomes plus Z, and then it'll change and manipulate, and then they restrict supply. Then rates go up, so it must crash. Well, rates go up, people stop selling. Well, you didn't predict that.
Yeah.
So now everybody's holding their homes, and rates went up, so the builders aren't building. We're actually falling further behind in supply. Yeah. So they're looking at things with like only 1 degree of understanding and saying X plus Y equals crash. And it's like, no, you forgot about these other 100 factors. Did you get the video I sent you?
Which one?
I just sent it to you this morning. You probably didn't see it yet.
No,
but,
I didn't.
It was about the fractional reserve banking system. And this is so interesting because I don't think people understand how... I don't know how much time you got.
I got a couple minutes, yeah.
Man, it's crazy. Like, you have to really think about it. But if let's say you go to the bank and deposit $1,000, the bank can keep $100 of that, 10%, and loan out $900, so 90%. Now, let's say a guy wants to start a business or take out a car loan. He comes in, takes the $900, and goes and buys a car. The business owner that sold the car takes that $900, deposits into a bank account. That bank then takes the $900, fractionally lends it out again.
Yeah, it's how money's created.
It's how money's created. Yeah. Not just the federal government printing money and creating money out of thin air to pay for government programs and to buy votes. It's also the banking system that's fractionally reserved. That's why people are so fooled. Like if I told you, Dan, this year your money is guaranteed to devalue by 7%. It's guaranteed because 7% more money will be created plus or minus. That's just the average. It'll be created at 7%. What investment decisions would you make if you actually said to myself, holy crap, my $100 is going to be 93 by the end of the year, or my $1 million is going to be whatever, 930,000. You then change your decision making and you become not a saver anymore because you can't. You realize, oh my God, saving is losing. So this is why the middle class and poor are just on the hamster wheel because they don't understand currency devaluation and money creation. And they're being fooled by a
inflation.
manipulated Inflation, it's all tied in, and they're being fooled by the government telling you, no, it's only 2%. You just got to keep your money. All you have to do is grow your money at 2%, and you're fine. Yeah, if you want to be middle class broke. If you want to have your Netflix and your McDonald's and your canned good foods and your cereal and bread and milk and cheese and eggs, but the other stuff that you're wanting, you're losing money too fast, and you just don't realize it. Like, think about that. That's a big leak in your bucket of money.
A huge leak.
Yeah, it's burying you. Because I think at 7%, it's like, I don't know, 50% devaluing your currency in like 10 years or something like that. Like, when you think about it like that, that's the game. And that's why we come out here and hammer inflation's inevitable. If inflation's inevitable, that means rising asset prices are inevitable. Not every year, not this year. I don't know. I don't know when. I don't know when they're going to change the rules of the game. But it's inevitable, and currency devaluation is inevitable. You better own assets.
That's why I talk about how I'm cautiously optimistic.
Exactly.
I'm cautious in the short term, but I'm optimistic long term.
Why? We have a housing shortage. Clearly, everybody knows it, U.S. and Canada. And we have an inflationary monetary system that's based on fiat currency. It's created out of thin air. And we have a fractional reserve banking system that loans out 10 to 1.
You can't lose long term with real estate.
You literally can't with anything harder than the money long term. You can't. You pretty much can't lose.
I got to cut there.
Love it.
Yeah.